You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it.
Guys, pig hunting. We alluded to it last episode. This is the follow-up because I keep getting people saying to me, get on people that pig hunt. I want to hear about pig hunting. It is something that I am definitely interested in. Have not had really anybody come on and talk about it. You are a fiend for pig hunting. I think that's probably putting it lightly.
It's contagious.
Well, mate, I know how much you've spent on a lot of gear, and we won't give numbers because in case your missus listens.
Yes.
But I always lowball it. You know, I tell my wife that, did you know rifles are worth $10? It's crazy. Anyway.
Everything's bought on sale for $500.
So, mate, firstly, how did you get into pig hunting? Where did the love affair with it? Because you are one passionate pig hunter.
So for me, basically a good friend of mine, he's a good Italian hunter, and if anybody's hunted with Italians, they know that they're pretty passionate people. When they get into something, they get right into it. So yeah, a friend kind of pointed me in the right direction and said, we're going out to chase some pigs. And I thought, why would anybody want to do that? And he said, come, try it. Trust me, you'll love it. It's once you see it, it's amazing. So anyway, we headed off out onto the Western Plains, up around Moree direction. And yeah, done that first kind of 4-day pig hunt. Predominantly, you're chasing, during the day, if you're chasing pigs, you're going to be chasing them out of a buggy. Some people do it in a ute, but yeah, we chase them out of buggies with, shotguns and that kind of stuff. And it's something that you got to try it, because once you try it, it's a hell of a lot of fun. You can chase them during the day, and then if you're greedy and you want to do it again at night, you put some thermals on and you go again. It's just there, and there's just endless amounts of them. Like the properties you go to, you could see 200-300 pigs. Definitely, you could see several hundred of these things. There's that many of them out there. It's just, you think, there's a lot of deer. If there's 5 million deer in New South Wales, there's probably 40 million pigs. It's silly. But it's just one of those things. Once you try it, you will love it. And that's why I wanted to, on our last hunt, to try and get a pig, because once you kind of hear them go and you chase them, it's fun. It's a different kind of fun to deer hunting. Deer hunting, you got to be strategic. Pigs, on the other hand, they've got pretty bad eyesight at nighttime. So as long as you've got your wind correct, it's a kind of free for all basically, and you're doing an absolute amazing service for a farmer or a landowner, because they do some hellish damage.
Yeah.
And once you see that damage that they're doing, it's actually really rewarding, to be honest, because you can make a real difference to a farmer, because they do some damage. It's unbelievable,
So how do you go about it? Because you've invested pretty heavily because you're right into it now. You don't go with dogs?
No.
So buggies?
Yes. So,
well, talk us through your setup and your gear, because I think that's important. I want to hear.
So we got several setups. So during the day, it'll be buggies, shotguns. So that'll be generally early morning, where a lot of the stuff is open crop area. So you'll be chasing pigs at rather high speed, from a buggy, safely of course. But yeah, you'll be chasing them with a shotty. Personally, I use a Buckmaster BP 12. So it's a 5+1, and it's kind of a purpose-built shotgun for pig hunting, really, because you can really get off those rounds fast when you hit a mob. And there's generally 2 of us in the buggy, so you can pop off several, and that'll be generally for our morning. Pigs kind of go to sleep sometimes. A lot of the time in the afternoon it can get pretty quiet, so we'll go and do a bit of fishing or that kind of stuff, or relaxing during the day. But then once the sun starts to disappear, that's when it really starts to heat up. I think a lot of traditional pig hunters, they used to go out with spotlights, and our first year we went out with spotlights, and don't get me wrong, you can round up some pigs, but the setup that I use now is definitely I use a Beretta BRX 308 with a Pulsar XG50 Pro LRF on the top of it. Paired that with a handheld thermal, so it's a lot of spot and stalk basically. So you'll spot on the monocular and then get yourself into position, or get several of us into a position, because you're generally not looking at 1 or 2 pigs, you're looking at 20 plus in a mob at any one time. So there's we'll generally have 2 or 3 setups, thermal setups ready to go, and you can obviously knock quite a few over. But yeah, thermal setup definitely is a game changer at nighttime for us anyway. There's multiple ways of pig hunting basically. You can, a lot of people use dogs as well. It's just not something for us, all with young families with pig dogs. They're not really known to be the nicest. But again, we find thermals for us is what we like to do. It's enjoyable, and it gets results. It's definitely a results driven for us. You can't do it with spotlights. You can't do it on the cheap. You put a Javel light on the top of your rifle and off you go. Chances are, if you're on crops at nighttime, you'll probably find a pig there. But yeah, that's kind of our day and night setups are very different. You've got the shotguns during the day, and then obviously you move into your rifles and stuff at nighttime with the thermals.
So on those day hunts, you're in the buggy driving around to flush them, I'm guessing, or do you see them? How does that work?
Honestly, it's probably a bit of both. If you're out on those crops early, a lot of the time they'll still be there. It's really until I've chased them across crops during the day. It's just luck of the draw as well. But a lot of the properties you would see pigs right up until around that 10, 11 o'clock, and then it goes quiet. But you can then push in to your more kind of bushy areas, and you can, what we would quite often do is we'd kind of form an eyesight line, and we'd push them through, and we'd flush them out, which is that can deliver some pretty good results for you as well. That's definitely what we would do morning, afternoon. We try and push them out, and then wait for them to kind of come. You don't really have to work too hard.
Okay.
You can put a lot of effort in, or you can cruise around and enjoy the scenery, and a lot of the time you'll come across them as well. You don't have to be a great hunter to find them. As long as you're in those croppy areas, they're generally not far from them. They need food, they need water, and they're pretty lazy. They'll stick to the same areas until the food runs out, and then they'll move.
Yep. That's pretty fast action you were talking about previously when we sort of had a chat about it. Yeah,
so the shotguns, there's quite a few of those push button shotguns. Like most of us are pretty much running in our crew anyway, we're running push button shotgun. So Buckmaster, there's a Pigmeister, Templeton Arms also do one as well. They're all like a 5+1 setup, and they're extremely fast to get off those rounds. It's very, very fast going. But it needs to be, because you've seen how fast pigs run. They really do. They bolt.
Yeah.
So you got to have generally fast buggies and fast triggers.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's kind of what we would do, and like our setup for the day and that kind of stuff.
And what are you running buggy wise?
Polaris Razor 900. We've got a Polaris Ace, which is a 590. It's a little single seater, and then the Razor's a twin seater. We've got a couple of quad bikes as well, which we'd kind of use to flush everything out. That's going to be replaced, I believe, with I believe there's a new toy that's coming in the next couple of weeks, which I believe is going to be 1,000 turbo. So
right.
that should be
For those extra quick pigs.
they're for the extra quick pigs. And that should be a bit of fun though, and it's pig hunting is definitely, it's a different kind of environment to your traditional deer hunting where you're by yourself. I think pig hunting is a sport you would do with your friends. It's fun. It's very fast paced. It's different, but it's the adrenaline pump of a pig hunt is definitely higher than a deer hunt.
Yeah, right. Okay.
It's two very different sports as such, And the pig hunting's all about the chase. All about the chase.
Yeah, no, I'm curious because there's, as you sort of alluded to, there's so many ways to hunt them that you can do what you're doing, whether you be in the buggies, nighttime just sitting with thermals or spotlights. Then you've got your dogs flushing them, whether it be an indicating dog and shooting them, whether you then go into your dogs who are, bailers and luggers and, actually stabbing them. There is so many different ways to do it.
Yeah, or you can go to the likes of the Northwest Outfitters, and you can do a chopper
Off the chopper.
Yeah, there's so many ways to hunt pigs. It's the endless options there, and geez, those farmers need a helping hand. It's pretty bad out there. So I think any which way anybody can get out there to knock over a few pigs is definitely worthwhile.
Well, I think they're the worst of all sort of introduced species because they just breed so rapidly. Like, even the ones we saw, they had 10 piglets. Like, you think about that. If even half are girls, then I think it's a bit ridiculous at how quickly that number can then be ready to breed. I can't remember the exact stats. But it's something like 6 to 9 months and they're ready to have a litter.
Well, the sow can physically still have piglets suckling on her, and she can already be pregnant with.
Yeah, right. There you go.
And I've seen it where they've got little piglets suckling, and the sow is already pregnant with 5 or 6 internal.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's probably close to, if not as bad as what rabbits were.
Yeah, well, that was the comparison I was thinking is rabbits, but they're probably worse in that just I think the sheer numbers they can probably have are probably higher than rabbits maybe.
Yeah, and probably the damage that they can do,
Yeah, but there's a bit of a rabbit plague coming back again. I know a lot of people, there's been a bit of information about how many rabbits. I mean, even Northwest, where we were up there at their place, geez, there's some rabbits getting around now. Like, on the drive home in the dark, there was, 20, 30 running around. And I've been reading a heap of things online where people are saying that there's an influx of rabbits coming around. A lot of burrowing, a lot of damage that way. Maybe not as much as the pigs that you are visibly seeing above ground, because it's, they obviously root around a fair bit and turn up the ground.
I think with obviously the pig hunting for us is a lot of there's a lot of problems with pigs as well, but I think a lot of pig hunters get a bad rep as well, where getting access to properties as well can be difficult, because getting trust from farmers that you're going to do the right thing. And I've probably pig hunted for 5 or 6 years now, and we've got two farms that we actively look after year on year. But getting access to those properties, I understand why they get Irel culls in and stuff, because when you see how bad the kind of plague numbers that they're in, you understand why. But it would be great to have more access to properties, for pig hunting. There's never enough, and there's always more you'd like to do. That's for sure.
I think I sort of talk about it. You've got to have a mix. I don't think the answer is just saying, hunters can do everything and control the numbers. I don't think that's realistically achievable. In saying that, I don't want to see hunters discounted altogether. There has to be share the load, and the more people out there culling or taking numbers out off the landscape, the better. Whether it be on the farmer wants to aerial cull and let hunters on, and then trap. That's all positive things, right? It's the tricky one of trying to navigate that.
Of course.
And I get farmers, especially if they've had bad experiences, and unfortunately, I always sort of say the 1% wreck it for everybody. I was reading on Facebook today, someone just got charged again for poaching. They got caught with a crocodile tail or something. And again, a small minority, it makes it look bad for hunters in general. And you don't hear about the 99% that do the right thing. You hear about the small minority that do the wrong thing. Unfortunately, that small minority tends to make the news, tends to make the media, also tends to leave a bad taste in property owners' mouths and ruin it for everybody, unfortunately. And look, it's not just hunting. I think that's every sort of industry, sport, whatever. We generally see the small amount of people that do the wrong thing, people latch onto it. So that sucks. So I sort of sit there and I can understand where property owners don't want to just let anybody on and go sort of crazy because they've been burnt in the past or whatever it might be. I get that aspect to it. I do think that there is that ability to offset some costs by letting people on to cull. Aerial shooting is not cheap. If they've got to do it, I think they need to do it. Don't get me wrong. I think that between that and trapping is needed. And then if you can sort of supplement that with hunters coming in as well, I think they're really positive things. I totally disagree with the Invasive Species Council in them saying that hunters do more damage by hunters being in the mix, that it makes the others more ineffective. I'd love to see some actual facts and data from them on that rather than just their throwaway sort of lines. But I think they're also pushing a narrative. When you're looking at, I think the APHDA, which is the Australian Pig Hunters and Doggers Association off the top of my head, I think they're doing some great conservation work and getting some data and whatnot. So props to them and what they're doing. And I feel that is sort of goes against the narrative that people like the Invasive Species Council are out there pushing. And I think that's important that that information is there and brought about so that, I guess, to make it a bit more publicised, because I think we get a bad rap as hunters in the media, in the general spotlight, when there is so much good that comes about it, and there's a lot of misinformation to try and stop us hunting. And I think that's what it just comes down to. The Invasive Species Council, I think they're anti-gun and they're anti-hunter, and I actually think that's because they make money off the rest of it, and that they've got a financial interest
in that whole thing.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they're getting grants to try and stop these animals, and they're pushing for jobs and money, which they're obviously probably getting parts of, and cuts would be my, assumption. Because if they were really about taking these animals off the landscape, why would you not be advocating for hunters as well as trappers, as well as aerial cullers, as well as everything else? Why would you not? That makes no sense. Like it's almost as silly as hearing Bill Gates doesn't plant trees because of global climate change because there's too much CO2 which trees eat. Like it's like you sort of sit there and go, what? What that? I'm maybe not the smartest person in the world, but that doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah,
there has to be a political agenda.
What they say definitely isn't true. One of the properties that we go to, aerial culls, they've got traps on the property as well that they actively use, and we're still on there, and there is endless amount of pigs. It's just and we can go in 4 shooters. And we're crunching numbers, we're hitting some big numbers. You're going through a lot of ammo. Like you're not knocking 2 or 3 of these things. Technology has moved on to a point now where you're not walking around with a flashlight. We're going around with high-powered rifles with state-of-the-art thermals. Like that stuff, that equipment is incredible. You're looking from 1,000 meters away, going, okay, there's pigs over there, let's go. Like, let's get over there. It's not the chances of you, catching livestock, that kind of stuff. The technology has moved on so greatly now that we can see what's moving. There's gone are the days of having to walk around and be 10 meters from a pig, before you have to, chase after or whatever. You don't need to do that anymore. Like the thermal game for any Australian hunter nowadays is just something that they should have. I know they're expensive, but they are drastically dropping in price. You don't have to spend massive money anymore. You can get a $600-700 monocular, and you can easily walk around a paddock and kill.
Yeah, spot heat signatures.
Yeah. You might not see the pig at 500 meters. You'll know there's a blob, a heat signature there, and get a bit closer, and chances are you'll be able to identify what it is. You just creep in a bit further, basically, to see what it is. But I think, pig hunters are always doing their thing, and I think out of anybody that's doing anything about a problem, I think pig hunters, if anything, don't get as much kind of appreciation for what they do. It the Pig Hunters Association, Ned and his team have run when we went out last time, we put in where we shot these pigs, how many, where they of birth and age, and was it a male, a female. The data that they were collecting, and I don't know the exact number off the head, but I think, during this part of the year, there's probably a couple 100,000 pigs that have been taken out by hunters, not professionals. These were just hunters going about their business, looking after farmers, So it's a really good sport. It's something that we love doing. It is a lot of fun, but it's a sport that genuinely does make a difference. So
look, it's piqued my interest, and I want to try and get onto a property and knock some pigs. But what are you talking numbers wise? Like when you go out and you do a weekend, how many are you putting on the deck?
4 people, you could easily shoot, 200-300 pigs.
Yeah, right.
There is that many of them out there.
Which that's got to be expensive too, though. Like,
if you're shooting a 308, depending on what you're shooting, but you could be up there for $2.80, $3.50, depending on what it is, a shot.
Yeah,
it gets pretty expensive. Definitely gets pretty expensive for something that you're trying to help.
Yeah,
But there's a pretty big investment in that stuff, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Well, look, I haven't recorded in a while. Technical issues with our internet. Gotta love the NBN, but I'm going to Starlink so we can get back up and running. And obviously, you and I are doing this live, or in person, I should say. I've just bought a Hick Micro Alpex LRF, the A50E, to offset my fantastic thermal monocular. And so a big shout out to Scoped Out. They were absolute pleasure to deal with. They were fantastic. Yeah, couldn't speak more highly about the experience buying from them. I reached out to a couple of others and didn't get any sort of, not the service that I probably wanted. So a big shout out to those guys. They more than happy to spend the time on the phone and go through what I needed, gave some really good advice, hooked me up. So I've got a fantastic kit. Well, I can't wait to use it. So their little sort of bundle. We got the Alpex into a uni mount with a Picatinny rail above the scope, so I can put my IR light on that. And the IR light looks pretty bloody good. I'm keen to use that. It's got the...
Looks like it goes like...
I think it's the Spiro.
400 to 600 meter reach or something like that.
Yeah, it looks good. But even the fact that you can run... Like, it's just the dial. I'll have to look at the name. I haven't even put it on yet. So, like, it's that fresh. But it's the one you can turn, and it has the white, the green, the red, and the infrared light. You literally just rotate a button, and that sends it. In just having a quick play under light, I was super impressed. So, I'm keen to put the IR out there and see what the Alpex can do with that. As I said, I haven't even set it up. Like, we're recording this, it's not even on the mount. So I'm just excited to get it, set it up on the different rifles, and just hopefully we'll have a property that is going to let us do some night shooting on. If not, look, I'll still run the Alpex. I want to try that out in the bush anyway. But I'm just, I think that's a nice little inexpensive sort of kit. That cost me $2,000, I think, all up. And that was with the uni mount, the torch with the Picatinny rail, and the mount so it sits above it. The IR light itself, which is, the reviews were really good, so I'm really keen to see what that looks like. Plus the laser rangefinder Alpex for $2,000.
It's a great setup.
Oh, I think it's awesome, and the ability to, and I know a lot of the thermals do this too now, but I have a ballistics calculator. So once you punch in all your data into the Alpex, that it calculates your shot. Like that's just awesome, especially like in the dark and whatnot. I think it's a necessity.
Yep.
And that's why I got the rangefinder, to then go in the ability to have different profiles. So I can run it on whether it be the 243, the 308, the 6.5 Creedmoor, whatever I want to do with it. Man, what a win that is.
Yeah,
I think it just ticks all the boxes. And I didn't go the thermal. I was considering going that Knockpix Bolt, I think it is. That's about $2,000 on its own. But I've been saying for the last 2 years I want an Alpex. So a shout out to Dave. He's been on the podcast. He has one and loves it. And I liked seeing some of the recording footage and stuff through there too. And I was like, you know what? For the sake of $2,000, let's just get it, have a play with it, see what happens.
I think I've got a friend of mine that actually just bought one of the Knockpick. It's got the, I think, 640 sensor, I believe, and I had a little play with it the other day, and damn, it's good.
Yeah, for $2,000.
It's pretty inexpensive in today's kind of economy, I guess. But I think your Alpex is, as an all-round scope, you'd be crazy not to look at an Alpex these days. You got the full function during the day. You can record. It's got the ballistics calculator. It's got everything as a general scope, which is whether you're going to chase deer during the day or you're going to turn that IR torch on at nighttime and go chasing some pigs. You've got the monocular there, and
it's the best of both worlds.
It's fantastic, and I think you're going to be doing something to help out farmers in the process, which is awesome. Well,
you talked about tech, and we're talking about thermals, and they have a massive place, as far as I'm concerned, in reducing feral pigs and whatnot. I've always said it's only going to be a matter of time tech gets better and better and the price comes down because there's more people doing it, it becomes more competitive. And we're seeing that now. Like, I'm glad to hear, because from the videos that I watched of the Knockpicks bolt were pretty impressive for a $2,000 option.
I think if you go back a few years, like a 640 sensor, that would have cost you 15 grand.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of that's just the normal sensor that people are using these days. And there's many different sensors, and I'm not fully technical in all the different sensors and how they field of view and all that kind of stuff, and there's a lot more educated people with that stuff, but I think every brand has kind of stepped up in that market, and it's made it so much more affordable for everybody to get started. You don't have to spend massive money anymore. You've got Hick Micro, Knockpicks, Pulsar, there's that many of them now on the market. The market's kind of over, I'd say, flooded, and there's a lot of
that
people.
Drives competition and costs.
Exactly.
So it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the market now selling that gear and bringing it into the country. So, the prices have come down drastically. Yeah. So if you haven't got a thermal, I would definitely recommend you look into it for sure.
Well, then you've even got now when we start to talk about thermal scopes, is the clip-ons. From my understanding, the clip-ons are getting really damn good.
Yeah, it's something that I've never played with because I've just set a rifle up for to be a dedicated thermal. I don't like to muck around with stuff.
Yeah.
I've got my day setup stuff and I've got my night stuff. I just don't like mucking around. Don't get me wrong, my pulsar is set up with a return to zero ring set on it, large ring set from, I think, American Defense Industries, I believe. And, that thing, you put it on top of the scope and it's bang on zero. Every time.
Yeah.
Like the electronic stuff. And if it's off, you've got, I think, maybe a 1 or 2 shots zero.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done it with the Alpex yet, but that just seems, I can't wait to literally freeze the camera, find the bullet hole, and then you zeroed.
Yeah,
I think
that's it.
How good's that?
It's a 10-minute process.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. And then being able to punch the data in and it literally have the ballistic calculator to thing. And I know talking to Dave, I can't remember if we spoke on the podcast, but in our group, where obviously the WhatsApp chat we have going on, he put up the film, and I think he shot a deer at 300-400, and he's pretty open, honest guy, Dave. That's what I really like about him. Said if I didn't have the Alpex, I probably wouldn't be confident or comfortable taking this shot. This thing just nailed it. Like,
it was so clear.
And recorded it, and we watched it, and it was like, oh my God, how good's this?
I think it done like an auto record as well.
Yeah, it does. I think you get 10 or 30 seconds prior. You can set it up with different things, I believe. Don't quote me. But, recording function of when you pull the trigger on that recoil just activates it. That's cool.
Yeah, it was very impressive.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But now we'll definitely have to get out for a pig hunt. It is something that, I love doing. I think you'll love doing as well.
Yeah, look, I'm not against it. It is something I've sort of seen a bit of YouTube. I get it, and I think that, I'm all for helping out farmers and whatnot. I think it's a great thing. So, yeah, we'll hopefully at some stage be able to get something going. But, yeah, no, it's the beauty of hunting, isn't it? Like, you can deer hunt, you can pig hunt, you can, go and chase ducks.
It's hunting in Australia.
Well, and look, that's probably a good, nice little segue there, is because you're obviously a expat from Ireland. Yeah. Been out here for a while. You think your accent's very strong. I don't think it is. I'm pretty easily understanding you, and I'm pretty sure our listeners will too. What is it like back home hunting? What's the difference between Ireland and
Australia? Very much. It's extremely hard in Ireland to get a gun license. It is very, very hard. The process in Australia is much more simple. Ireland's had a bit of a troubled past, and as you'd imagine, they don't like handing firearms to people legally. And then the whole public land setup that you have in New South Wales, probably people don't realise how spoilt they are here, but in Ireland it's leasehold. So you pretty much buy access. You buy leasehold land and you hunt that particular property, and if there's no deer there, there's no deer there. It's luck of the draw. But you're buying your spot to hunt that particular lease for the season. You can't hunt them year round either. So in Australia you can go for it all year round. In Ireland it's leasehold, and there's set seasons where you can chase them.
The leasehold's a funny thing. I've always sort of thought about the idea of struggling to get private access is that the leasehold sounds appealing in being able to say, whatever, here's the fee and you've got access to the property. And that's probably, maybe I'm really bad at trying to get access or I don't know, but that's always been something that I've sort of gone, I wouldn't mind having that here in Australia. But then I can also see the offset of that, like you sort of just said, is that if you then can't afford the leasehold, or you might be paying big money to have a property that hasn't got much, like it's a very tricky one to navigate as well.
You're pretty much relying on someone's sales pitch that there is deer on that particular property. They'll show you some trail cam pitch, but you don't know if it's theirs. You don't know if it's theirs, and two, you just
how old is it?
Yeah.
Have they been scared off the property?
Exactly.
Shot out. Yeah.
It makes it a very expensive place to hunt.
Yeah.
It's very hard to get a gun license, for one. There's a lot of hoops you'd have to jump through. A lot of people hunt in England as well. I believe the system is much the same as it is in Ireland. But again, you need to be part of a fancy club that has land. But there's lots of deer over there. As you probably would have seen on the likes of Clarkson Farm, stuff like this. There is plenty of deer to be had. But it's very much a rich man's sport.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
In that part of the world at least, it's an expensive, very expensive hobby.
Yeah.
Shooting on extremely expensive properties.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It fascinates me a little bit because if you're talking about a paid property here, I see it on Facebook all the time. Someone will offer out their property, but they want to make money, and there's I shouldn't have to pay, we're doing you a favour, and this whole roundabout. And I think it comes down to perspectives, and I sort of sit there and go, like, we're lucky that we have public land. So if you don't want to pay, you can go to public land. If you are lucky enough to get private access and you don't have to pay for it, so be it. And if you're paying, looking at, as we said, we went to Northwest Outfitters. I think they're very reasonably priced. $12.50 for a fallow buck and a decent one. Some great quality animals there. I think he does a meat hunt where you take 5 deer for $1,500. That includes the buggy, that includes guide. I think that's so reasonable. I get that some people, it might not be their cup of tea. Okay, I get that, but I don't think it's that bad. I don't know. If you've seen the property, I think that is a very reasonable charge to see more deer than you will in a lifetime of state forest. And I honestly actually stand by that comment. Or I'm a really terrible hunter and I don't see much in the state forest. But if you think about, I think about the best state forest trips I've done, I may have seen 4 or 5 deer.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, I shot 3 at the same time in an hour. Now, it's not high fence. It is a working farm. It's just, there is really good numbers there, and it's huge. So it's funny when you see all the different perspectives, and I try and put myself in different perspectives here, and I sort of sit there and go, for me, taking my kid not into a state forest, getting to see deer and goats and things like that, for the whole experience, for for 5 meat deer at $1,500, I think that's a good value. Like and being there for, I think, 3 days, 3 nights, it's $500. If you sort of break that down, it's $500 a day or a night. What Airbnb do you get for that? Like,
you don't.
No, exactly. So it's funny because I always see the people complain about it. And look, again, do what you want that makes you happy. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If you do, go for it. But I just it's always funny that we have people who will shell out thousands and thousands of dollars on a scope, and then they'll complain about that, access that they have to pay for because the farmer wants to make some more income, which they're entitled to.
And he's just trying to fix up his own property, he's investing that in his own farm. He's not.
Yeah, it's funny.
It's not like you're walking into Apple and you're buying an iPhone and the money goes overseas. You're spending money with a farmer.
Yeah.
And he's using it to improve his property, or maybe he's just taking a holiday, which he probably hasn't done for a long time.
Yeah, it's fun. It's it just fascinates me how different people view things, and I think it comes down to your experience. If you've had free properties and you've got a heap of access, I get you're probably not going to pay for access. But if you've never had the opportunity to be able to pay and to experience like what we experienced, it's crazy. I just sit there and think I've been on other paid blocks where I've never seen anything.
I've been on paid blocks, and don't get me wrong, sometimes there'll be the odd thing there, but you don't know who else has been on there. Yep. There's no real accountability of the numbers that have been through that property.
Yeah, and the number of animals and the size of it. I don't see it getting like shot out. There's that much there.
Definitely not.
Dead set. You could have 5 hunters every day of the year there taking multiple deer, and I still think there's still so many there.
I'm surprised that there's not a property just like theirs, but like dedicated to pig hunting as well. I'm so surprised that that doesn't exist. Well, it doesn't that I know of.
Yeah, that they let people come on to chase. Yeah. Well, he sort of does too. If you want to chase trophy boars, you can.
Yeah, true.
And whatnot. But you're right, like that specialises in that because he's just mainly a fallow deer. Like that's the pitch for it because they're in their quality and in big numbers But I'm with you that there's not properties that people are going, mate, we got that many pigs, come and get trophies,
let's go.
Knock them off. I think the difference with pigs potentially is the eating factor. Like, we went and saw that many does, we, harvested 4, we can eat them. It's sort of, I don't know, I think that sort of value makes it a bit easier for people to swallow sometimes in the sense of, if you're paying $100 a doe, for example, and you take 20 kilos of meat, that's not super bad. You know what I mean? Like compared to pigs, knocking a pig over, most people, I shouldn't say that because I actually don't know, but I would think most people are not probably taking the meat and eating it. I know a lot of people do, but I'd say it's
you look at the survey that the Pig Doggers Association have done where people logged how many pigs they were shooting when they were out. People aren't doing it necessarily for food.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of thousands of pigs that have been shot basically this year, and I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
And people aren't doing that necessarily for food. You'd love to compare it against how many deer are shot throughout New South Wales. It's really hard to get a number on that stuff, though, is the problem. You've got DPI stuff in state forest, but on private access, there's just no way of accounting for how many deer would have been shot against how many pigs. The Pig Doggers done the survey, and that's all. Doesn't matter if it was private or state forest. People were logging those numbers, and those numbers were huge. And that was more, if it's not for food, it's more for a social benefit of helping farmers. It's more of a community give back, I reckon, because it costs money.
Yeah, look, I agree. I'm just trying to find the numbers. Here you go. Got it. So in 2024, 5.3 million pigs were taken from the landscape.
Like, that's impressive.
Ooh, that's huge.
That is some big numbers.
And that's only the people that are, I'm guessing, registering with them. I'd be fascinated to hear about how they got that data. But if it's just that, man, that's cool. Like, and you think about it, that's people that may not have access. Like, imagine if every property owner out there, if we had access to national parks, if
the floodgates open,
man.
wow.
Well, exactly right. Like, what
Endless
number
possibilities.
could hunters take off the landscape? Even if that was not paid for, like, just hunters had to pay to do what they enjoy. Man, that's a good cost saving. Like, I mean, if you talk 5.3 million and you say $1 a bullet is what we pay for tax, which we don't, right? Because with aerial culling, you're paying for choppers and that's quite expensive. But just $1 a bullet, which, like, let's be real, it's probably on the light end without anything else going on. There's $5.3 million in savings that could have occurred to someone, whether it be tax, whether it be farmers, whether it be whatever. Like, I think that's huge. And that would be the minimum.
There's a reason why you go to a gun shop and there's always lots of people in them.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah, I agree.
It's got to be one of the busiest shops in the high street, There's always people in them because they're always buying stuff, The economic side of especially pig hunting, I think the economic side of that would be huge.
Huge. Well, what do you take away? I mean, when you go on a trip, ammo wise, because I know when I go deer hunting, I might take a box of 20. What are you doing when you go pig hunting?
I've got a case full, so there's probably 400 rounds in there. Now I'll probably only use maybe a third of that, or possibly you'd use more. It just depends, and how many are around at any given time. But this it's say a 308, it's Sacco ammunition. Yes, $3 a shot.
$1,200. It's it's not cheap.
No, but you do it and it's fun, and
it's like any hobby, any sport, any activity you do, costs money.
Yeah.
Which is, it's sort of funny, and sort of going back to that paid blocks and things like that, is you go snow skiing and what do you pay? Like, I think we looked at it this year and didn't get around to it, but we were sitting there going, it's going to cost $4 or $5 grand for 3 days. The lift passes alone, I think they're pushing $200 for an adult per day. So you and your partner, there's $400 over 3 days. There's $1,200 there. People do that and not sort of flinch at it, but then if it's a paid property, we'll flinch at it. It's really weird. I don't know. I sort of sit there and can't see the value, why people can't value that when other things they will value.
Oh yeah,
as well. It's and look, again, each to their own. Do what makes you happy. I don't care as long as it's legal. Don't care.
There's properties for everybody though.
Yeah.
And if you want a free hobby, take up walking, I guess.
Well, that's it. Well, mate, everyone has a different thing. I sort of like that about hunting too. Like, if you haven't got the money, you still have the opportunity. That's what I dislike. What you were saying about Ireland is that if you haven't got money, you are now fully sort of out of.
You're out of the loop
of being able to do it. Whereas I like the idea here in Australia, you don't, what the R license system, I couldn't even tell you what it costs now, but I think it's a couple $100 for a few years.
A couple $100 for an R license.
That's it.
Do your, go down to the gun shop, get yourself a starter rifle, get a 308 Howa or whatever kit.
Yep.
Costs you $900.
Yeah, and you've got something that will get you out there.
And that's you. Yeah. Good set of walking boots and off you go.
Pretty much. No, that's the beauty of it, which I like here.
Hunting in Australia is very, very accessible. Definitely. Maybe not in Western Australia and different parts, but I think relatively, Victoria and New South Wales, I think we're absolutely spoiled for choice. And I think that's maybe why some people don't like paying for properties, because maybe we're just so spoiled.
Yeah, I get that.
basically.
Oh, look, it's horses for courses. I completely understand. It does burn me a little bit when you go to the States and you see the prices over there compared to what we pay, and just think about how much tax and whatnot we get put on our items.
Even the ballot systems, though, in the States.
Well, they've got heaps of hunters, though. That's the other thing, is that I love all the memes where they talk about public land and, there's hundreds of people running with their stands and whatnot. And, I don't want that like here. It's a really funny one. We spoke about this before because I follow Matt Ranella, obviously Steve's older brother, I'm not sure, but he's sort of the complete opposite to Steve in the sense that he doesn't want hunting influencers and he doesn't want more hunters, and I think his Instagram's Hunt Quietly because he doesn't want it out there because he thinks it's ruining hunting. I see some merit in that a little bit. I sort of see both sides. I think you do need more numbers because without the numbers, you don't have the sway, I guess, for that political clout, I guess. But then I sort of see if you have too many, lack of access, like our hunt at State Forest in the rut was nerve-wracking. We were talking about that when you were away, saying you were pretty edgy cutting up your deer when there's shots going on around you. And I think that's fully fair. I don't think that's a nice feeling. And I think we're pretty well numbered here. I think we're really tricky.
We're condensed into a small area, especially during the rut. I think generally people, are condensed into certain areas that are accessible, and people, I guess it's probably the generational thing these days. People want things to be easy.
Yeah.
So they're likely to hunt the spots that are slightly easier, but I think the courtesy goes out the window at times.
Yeah.
For other people around them as well. But I know the rut was nerve-wracking. There was, definitely gunshots going off around me while I was cutting up a deer. So I think I took back straps and legged it out of there, to be honest. I had enough of that.
That's fair. I mean, each their own. I know some people go, "Oh, don't be a pussy" or whatever, but when you've got, I think things change too. When you get a young family at home, there's other things that you care about and are more prioritising in the scheme of things. I sort of sit there and go, there are things I definitely wouldn't do now that I would have done at 20 years of age and did some dumb things when I was 20 years of age compared to now thinking that, hey, I want to go home to my kids. I want to go home to my wife. I want to, make sure I'm there for my family. It's interesting. I wasn't a big fan of the rut with so many people around and gunshots going off all around you. It was not something that I enjoyed. Yeah. I'll say that. But
it'll be interesting to see kind of where we head next year. Now that you're
I don't know if I want to do that again.
Well, you're going to have a little. You're going to have a chariot to sleep in. So.
Yeah, well, that's true. But let me clarify. Not that I don't want to do croak camp again. I don't know if I'll go to the same area again. I think I might look at a different forest or a different part of the forest. Or that was something I wasn't super keen on personally.
Well, there's options.
Yeah, and look, that's the beauty of
state forest hunting. Plenty of options.
Indeed. There's plenty of lands, plenty of places to go. It might not be the large amount of deer, but you might have more success because there's less hunters that go for that part of the forest. So I'm keen to get somewhere for the rut. That's for sure. Good time of year.
Definitely.
Time of year,
so what's on the? What do you think is on the cards for you for the next little while for your hunting?
Look, I don't know. I've got school holidays coming up, and I'd love to get out in that period. I don't know yet. Haven't locked anything in because we only just got back. So, and there's not a hard press to go get meat because it's all stocked.
The freezer's
up.
full.
Yeah. So, and you alluded to it. We've just bought a caravan, so I'm waiting for that to arrive. That's not too far away. So, hopefully we'll have that very shortly, and then I'll be looking at doing some trips and hopefully getting out hunting more. I know we've spoke about hunting more. The wife is very keen to get out and camp.
I think we said trips with the family
morning hunts.
But we just happen to be in a area where we might be able to go for a hunt.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And that's sort of the purchase of the caravan for that, of being able to take the family, get out for a morning hunt, come back, and we're still good. I think that's really accessible now and is probably the way to go. So, yeah, looking forward to that. That's hopefully that will come before it gets too hot. That's the plan anyway.
Maybe we'll get out and chase the elusive pig.
Yeah.
That'll be on the cards, I reckon.
100%.
You know, we got to get out and
Chase some
pigs and get you hooked. And then, I think
see what happens from there.
Your wife will never see you then.
Oh, no, I can't do that, please. I don't.
You'll have the burning question: chase deer for meat or chase pigs for fun?
See, pigs over summer I could get into because you're not worried about the meat. So you're not worried about the meat spoilage. It always makes me nervous for deer in summer, especially those hot days. I think meat can turn rancid pretty quick and spoil. So, whereas if it's pigs, I sort of like the idea of it's hot, they're going to be pushed to water. Yeah. You can get out there, chase them down water and smack them, have some fun. That makes sense. So.
And then once you get them, when you come back an hour later, there's going to be foxes there as well.
Well, then that's the other thing too. Yeah, so it's like
you get 2 species for the price of 1.
The double whammy.
Yep.
So well, mate, we'll have to. Hopefully, it wasn't our last hunt this year, so we're still pretty early in September. So let's we'll try and tee up something else. But well, mate, we'll appreciate you coming on and
not a problem
recording, and mate, we'll have to hopefully get out there again and. I encourage people to check out the videos that we shot, and hopefully they'll be up very soon. So if you haven't, check out, subscribe so you get alerted when it comes, and enjoy. So thanks for coming. All right, guys. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt. Thanks for tuning in, and can't wait to catch you next time. But in the meantime, if you want more, you can find it at linktr.ee/Australian Hunting and Beyonds. That will give you our YouTube, Instagram, X, Facebook, you name it. We'll catch you next time.